How's it going? I just fancied making another quick video on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation since we just had the closing arguments yesterday. And they briefly touched on the real reason that all this has happened, the real reason for the whole court case, the real reason why they've been in court twice, the real reason for all their problems. They briefly touched on it. Now, I caught onto this quite early on. I think Amber Heard was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder maybe a week or two ago. But as we can see here, back in March 28th, 2021, I just watched the recording of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard court case. I can't believe Depp got cancelled when it's blatantly obvious that he's the victim of domestic abuse and Heard has borderline personality disorder and needs help. Now, why was I so easily able to diagnose Amber Heard and know that this is the reason for the problems, and the world couldn't? It's crazy. And basically, I've met people with borderline personality disorder, and I've done my research. I've read books on it. I've been interested in it for ages. I also learn a lot about psychology and stuff as well. Anyway, so what are the symptoms of borderline personality disorder? Fear of abandonment. And this fear of abandonment creates anger within the person when they're in a relationship. They get very angry with their partner because they're scared that they're going to leave them, and they essentially push them away by being abusive to them, which is crazy. Emotional instability is another symptom of it. These are all things that Amber Heard has to deal with on a daily basis. Mood swings. And when we say mood swings, what we really mean is tantrums like a toddler throwing things about the house, and generally, you've seen how toddlers act. Feeling empty. Again, it's quite sad that people with borderline personality disorder, they're in constant pain all the time, and then they basically lash out and take that out on other people. Impulsive behaviors. There we go. So impulsive behaviors, they basically get them into a lot of trouble. This can be things like being unfaithful to their partners and stuff, which is really quite common. Self-harming or suicide attempts. Now, the self-harming, that is done quite often, but they can also use self-harming and fake suicide attempts as well to kind of create a trauma bond with the person, so that they think that they need to help the person, and it's basically a way to trap them as they are too scared to leave them, as this comes from their fear of abandonment that we see here. Unstable relationships. Well, yeah, they have a antisocial personality disorder, so of course it's going to make their relationships unstable. Explosive anger. Explosive anger. So Amber Heard regularly will have explosive anger. It says it all, no? Okay, now this is quite an interesting part here, right? Because as you've seen, Amber Heard and many other people with borderline personality disorder, they're able to just kind of block out the truth. So even when Amber's been caught blatantly lying, and there's like no way that anybody's going to believe what she's saying, any normal person would be aware that nobody's going to believe her. She should know that nobody's going to believe her, but she puts up this mental block still and still carries on with the lie. And the reason is losing connection with reality, often in response to stress. And basically, people with borderline personality disorder, they can also have dissociative disorder as well, which basically means they can disassociate as well. But they're very good at putting up it's basically like you can't get through to them whatsoever because they're living in this whole like fantasy world kind of thing. Loss of identity and feeling suspicious, very suspicious. So generally, all these things like explosive anger, fear of abandonment, emotional instability, mood swings, etc. are symptoms that Amber Heard has to deal with every day. Now, I do have a friend who has borderline personality disorder, and hers isn't as bad as Amber Heard's. And the reason is basically, I think she has another personality disorder as well, but also has elements of borderline personality disorder. But if you have full-blown borderline personality disorder, then it takes over pretty much most of your personality to the point that you're all a clone of each other, really. And that's why I could spot it a mile off. It was that obvious. And it's that simple because they're essentially the same person. Because their disorder's taken over their whole personality. So it's like Johnny was never in a relationship with a loving human being. He was in a relationship basically with a person who's everything they do is because of a personality disorder. And I guess in a way generally it does kind of mean that it's not really Amber Heard's fault because she does have a personality disorder. I mean, the fact that you can see that she's exactly the same as other people that I've met with borderline personality disorder, and the things they do are identical. Kind of just goes to show that they're not really fully in control of it. It's like it's within them, and it's almost like it's painful for them not to let it out, and that's what creates the chaos and stuff. And generally, there is the element of the narcissist enjoying torturing their partner as well, but it's crazy. Anyway, so that's it. So I heard that Camille briefly mentioned this in closing, so we're going to go look at that now. But I do feel that, as this is obviously the whole reason for everything, the whole reason for her lies, the whole reason for the manipulations, the whole reason for the recordings and stuff, because she always planned to destroy him, they should have been harder on basically the fact that she has an antisocial personality disorder, because that is the cause of everything. But let's go to see what Camille had to say on the topic. Camille has proven to be worth her weight in gold, by the way. She's absolutely amazing.
One of those promises we made was that you would come to understand who Miss Heard is. That she is a deeply troubled person, violently afraid of abandonment, desperate for attention and approval. And in her relationship with Mr. Depp, she was violent, she was abusive, and she was cruel. You heard from Dr. Shannon Curry, who explained that Miss Heard suffers from borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. These are disorders that are characterized by anger, sometimes uncontrollable and explosive anger, and a powerful, sometimes desperate need for attention, acceptance, and approval. Fear of abandonment is the deepest fear. A person with these disorders will suffer from dramatically fluctuating moods and can sometimes be violent and aggressive. They can also be charming and likable, but they can be incredibly manipulative and wild. An emotional roller coaster with wild swings, from idolizing their partner to devaluing him. In fact, you saw that when she completed testing with her own forensic psychology expert, Dr. Dawn Hughes. Miss Heard self-reported that she felt like she had 3 or 4 different personalities, and that sometimes her temper would explode and she'd completely lose control. You heard from multiple witnesses that Miss Heard can be very pleasant, even charming. But you also heard from multiple witnesses and in audio recordings of Miss Heard that she can be incredibly aggressive, violent, and cruel. You heard that even from her former assistant, Kate James, Miss James testified that Miss Heard would scream, yell, and send her barrages of text messages. In fact, Miss Heard testified that Miss James testified that Miss Heard literally spat in her face. You heard from Miss Heard's former best friend, Rocky Pennington, that Miss Heard once hit her when Miss Pennington did not do her best to meet Miss Heard's needs. You also heard from Beverly Leonard, that she once witnessed Miss Heard assault her then partner in Seattle Airport in 2009. And you heard from Mr. Depp, that Miss Heard used her sister Whitney as a punching bag, literally and figuratively. You also heard overwhelming evidence from Mr. Depp and the people that were around him and Miss Heard during their relationship, that Mr. Depp suffered persistent verbal and physical abuse at the hands of Miss Heard. You've heard evidence from Dr. Curry and the fact witnesses at this trial that Miss Heard's deepest fear is one of abandonment, being left by Mr. Depp. Mr. Depp's greatest crime in her mind, the fault she confronts him with time and time again, is that he splits. He leaves the fight, especially when Miss Heard gets physical. And she couldn't stand it when he did. You heard from Miss Heard yourselves in audio recordings how upsetting it was to her when Mr. Depp would split.
Anytime anything goes wrong with split, I feel like it's your first thing. And it's unnecessary. It's not always you're splitting because there's blows or because there's yelling or anything. You split most times when I'm still speaking in this volume and nothing has been thrown or hit or anything.
You saw the barrage of text messages she would send when he would...
Absolutely crazy. There we go. So, wild. It's, so So it's quite a tricky situation because obviously Johnny Depp is right, so he should win. He should never have lost the UK case, but he did. Amber Heard should be punished, but at the same time though, she can't really control it because she has an antisocial personality disorder. It's like she can't keep these things in. Obviously, they're not true. She knows it's wrong. She has to be punished. But, I mean, it is her fault, but it's very, very difficult for her to control it. It's not like you and I, where we could just not do horrible things. These things are kind of like trying to burst out of her, you know? And it's painful for her to keep them in, so it's a very difficult one. I mean, it's challenging. Now, one of the weird things is as well is like one of the most difficult things for her is she doesn't care what Johnny thinks of her. She doesn't care what any other partners think of her, really. I've seen videos of her, of her sister, where her sister has been talking about the fact that Amber beat her, like really, really beat her hard. And as her sister so far has been her most credible witness, that is like extremely damning for her. It's crazy. I mean, it tells you everything that you need to know. She's saying her sister's not violent, but the video evidence of her bruised saying that her sister beat her completely contradicts what she said. Jason Momoa, who's been working alongside her, just followed Johnny Depp on Instagram as well, which generally tells you everything that you need to know about Jason Momoa's thoughts on the situation. He's showing support for Johnny Depp. It's crazy. Anyway, I thought I would make this video because I was just on Twitter and I saw a woman posting these tweets and talking about how they wanted to show support for Johnny Depp as they believe he's right based on the evidence, but they were scared they would lose followers. And I couldn't help but think to myself, that is insane. Could you imagine if the tables were turned and Amber Heard was the victim, and men were saying, well, I would like to show support for the victim, but I'm afraid all the guys might not like think I'm cool and will stop following me because I support an actual victim. That's ridiculous. I mean, for so many people, it's not about justice for the victim. It's a gender-based witch hunt against Johnny Depp. But yet they're trying to pretend it's the opposite way around. It's crazy. But anyway, I just thought I should highlight the details of what's going on, why they're going on, and why it should be obvious to others as well. As like I said, I clocked it according to that tweet over a year ago.